Hi, guys. Welcome back to Steps to Sobriety, my show on YouTube and as a podcast with me, your host, Stefan Neff. Today's another fantastic day for an interview. And I'm so pleased to have Gloria Battini with me. Gloria is a woman on a mission. And that mission is absolutely beautiful because she is going out there and helping survivors of narcissistic and emotional toxic relationships to find their self-love again. Because what happens is there's so much crap going on in such relationships and so much gaslighting and so much horrible things that it really messes with people's mind. And that can be boys, that can be girls, that can be transgender. It doesn't matter. Any relationship where there's a narcissist involved will have very similar flow-on effects of the opposite person. So now it's high time that we look about that because narcissists are so much more common out there than we like to believe. So, Gloria, thank you so much for coming on to my show.
Thank you so much for having me, Stefan. I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me here.
So one day, when you were a little girl, went to your mummy and said, you know, mummy, I know what I want to do. I want to be a life coach for narcissistic people, and I will kick ass, and I will be a woman on a mission. Mm-hmm. That's me. Said no young girl ever.
So, that is not exactly how that happened.
Exactly.
Okay.
So what did you want to do when you were a little girl?
Do you know what? I never actually had that clear vision in mind. I remember I had this journal, and one time I wrote I wanted to be a ballerina, one time I wanted to be the mayor, one time I wanted to be a doctor. Excellent. Whatever that was. Yeah. But I never had that, some kids know it straight away. They have the interest straight away, and I didn't. For me, it really developed through the years, and each time I had to decide what to study, I just went with what I felt like at that time, right? So I had to pick my high school, and I was like, I feel like I want to learn foreign languages, so I went down that route. And then after that, I looked at university. I was like, I want to do psychology, I want to do communication. So I always went like with the gut feeling of the moment. But the interest in psychology, mental health, all that, that always stayed with Beautiful. Me. I was always very interested in all those subjects growing up as well. So it's not something that's come like that. That's always been there. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. May I ask, why has that been there? Have there been times in your childhood where you from an early time on experience that sometimes kids become mediators in broken marriages of their parents, and sometimes kids take on roles way beyond their age. Was that something like that happened to you?
I did definitely take on roles beyond my age, for sure. I'm a parentified child, definitely. But I think, I don't know why, I was always fascinated. I don't know why. I was always fascinated in how the mind works, and why do we get to think in a certain way? Why somebody, even the different mental health issues, why somebody struggles with one thing and not the other. I was always like very, very interested in the mind. The mind itself was a very big thing for me always. Yeah.
Beautiful. And the mind is such an amazing thing, isn't it? Mm-hmm. If you think about it, why do you feel the way you feel? Why do you identify yourself the way you are? There's so many core questions to us, and you could go a religious tangent or a philosophical, doesn't matter. The key questions that we ask ourselves, they are always there. And then there are, of course, people like you and me who really go into the deep and actually dive in, and that's cool. That's cool. But, you could have chosen amongst psychology, you could have chosen everything. I mean, there are thousands of topics and thousands of research questions. Why did you choose narcissism?
Well, that came from my own experience. So I didn't study psychology in university. I ended up doing communication and events management. And I had a beautiful career in events here in London. And that lasted 10 years. So during that time, I was in a relationship, which was then I find out with a person that had narcissistic traits. And I then realized that I went through gaslighting. And then I realized that I had OCD, high functioning anxiety, all those things. And when I got out of all that, I decided to work on myself. I got out of all that. And I said, I need to help. I just need to do something about it, because I realized the massive change it had on my life to work on me and to be able to free myself from a relationship like that. And also from my own mind and my own OCD, that I just wanted to help. I just said, imagine if all women could experience this kind of transformation, it would be a very, very different world, you know? And so that's how I started. I qualified. I started studying to become a life coach, and I qualified. And I then just put the word out there and started working.
Gloria, maybe let's go 2 steps back here, because ultimately it is, whilst we use terms that are very, unfortunately, comfortable and we are knowledgeable in these terms, maybe other people out there don't really know so much. Do you want to just touch upon the narcissism? But what is a narcissistic person? How do you recognize one?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thank you. That's a great question. So first of all, I mean, there is narcissistic personality disorder, okay? But there is also a huge spectrum, okay? And I would like really people to know this, that you really don't need a diagnosis to recognize abusive behavior. Right? Abusive behavior is abusive behavior nonetheless, even if you don't have a psychiatrist telling you that the person has narcissistic personality disorder. Does that make sense? Very. So abuse is abuse. It doesn't matter. So in terms of the narcissist, and I'm going to refer to narcissist as the general, like wherever they are in the spectrum, okay? As a person with narcissistic traits, is a person that doesn't feel empathy. So it is really quite disconnected from the emotion or the thing that they might be causing in the other person. Okay. They have a very, very specific way of operating and manipulating the other person. And the relationships that they have with other people are not about they're not about the other person, but it's about what they get from that specific relationship. So it's in the jargon, it's called the narcissistic supply, because it's always about supplying that ego that constantly needs to be supplied with admiration, you know, with serving them and being there for them, right? So the way a narcissist operates is cyclical. So they take you through a cycle, and each phase of this cycle can last however long. It could last a week, it could last a month, it could last 3 years. Okay. But it starts from love bombing, it's called. And it's basically when you are, oh my goodness, thank God I met you. You are the most amazing thing in the world. You are everything. And, you know, it's like, oh my God, I am hearing everything that I ever wanted to hear. It's happening now. Prince Charming has arrived, or Princess Charming, or whatever. They have arrived. They're saving me. It's everything I wanted, right? And it goes on like that for a little while, and then things change a little bit. they start not being so loving anymore. They start putting some distance there, or maybe they start doing some mean comments, or maybe insults disguised as jokes, or saying something mean, and they're like, oh, come on, I was only joking, or comparing you to other people. And that's the devaluation phase. It's basically when they take you from the love, the idealization, the love and love bombing to like, you're not that good, actually, And then there's the discard. The discard is where they completely like, that's it, they're done with you. They don't care about you anymore. Whether they break up with you or not, that doesn't mean that you're not in the discard phase. I was in the discard phase and I was the one who broke up, but he was definitely not considering me anymore as a partner. And so then it's a discard phase. And then what they do, the reason why it's so dangerous and it's such a deep manipulation is because then the cycle starts again and again and again. And again. And what this cycle does is it creates dependency. It creates addiction to that love bombing phase, so that when you are in the discard, you're like, oh, but he's going to be nice again soon. If I just can hold on to this, I know he's going to feel better. And then it will start again, and then it will just go on and on and on and on. And it's very difficult to leave a relationship like this because you're holding on to the hope that it's going to get better again, right? That it's just a phase. And yeah, it's really hard. It's really hard. I would say,
no, please. Ladies first.
No, I was just going to say that a lot of the time when I was in the relationship, if I can give anybody not a hint, but a way, am I in this relationship or not? Am I experiencing a narcissist or not? For me, the fundamental question would be, do you ever question your own sanity? Do you ever question, am I imagining it? Is this real? Is this actually happening to me? Or they say to you something that you don't remember saying. They tell you, oh, but you just said that. Or maybe you're trying to tell them, but it didn't go this way. And they try to flip it around. This is a very, very, quite big alarm bell.
Very, very true. And let's say why they love bomb you so much and what's actually going on. The reality is what these people do is they shower you with attention. They are listening to every word. They're asking you questions that no one ever asked. And that's not because they're interested in you, really. They are interested in you, but they want to find out how you tick. What are the points that hurt you? What are your triggers? What are your buttons that they then later can use to push? Absolutely. So, and once they've got that information, that's like gold to them. That all happens, unfortunately, on a subconscious level. They don't have tick lists where they go through, tick, 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 tick. No, they are masters in acquiring that information. And that is going during that time of that love bombing, it is so nice. Oh, he's so gorgeous. Oh, God, he listens to me. God, no man ever listened to me like that. Yeah, about that, okay? We men don't listen. We men typically, that's right. Yes, honey. You said what? You never listen to me. That's a strange way how to start a conversation. Okay, you get the idea. And whilst I'm making fun of it, to a certain degree, there's a negative truth there. If something is too good to be true, it probably is. And I think that is with hindsight that many women actually recognize. When I say women, unfortunately, narcissism tends to be a little bit more on the male side. At least it becomes a bit more apparent there in relationships. But I certainly have found quite a few female narcissists. So, we all can be victims to it. And I love the way you said it. Sometimes we can be quite mean bullies too. And we can be a bit narcissistic too, because if we have been hurt and if there are things going on wrong in our life, unfortunately, we can be assholes too. So I guess it's just. You were saying something about manipulation, and we were earlier saying gaslighting. We should say what that actually means to gaslight. I mean, it doesn't mean absolutely if someone is actually not versed into the scene. What does that mean actually?
So the gaslighting is the changing the perception of your reality, of your own reality. So it's exactly what I was saying earlier as one of the alarm bells. So if you feel like there is a discrepancy between what the other person is trying to make you believe or is telling you and what you actually think happened, then that's a sign. That's a sign that they are manipulating your reality. They are trying to make you think that something else has happened instead, right? And I really want to stop on this for a second, because so many people out there are going to be like, yeah, as if somebody tries to, if I say something and somebody tells me that I said something different, of course I'm going to tell them, of course I'm going to catch it up. No, you won't. You absolutely won't. And I'll tell you why, because when you get there, you have been through the cycle. You have opened yourself up. You have become vulnerable. You are probably in love and you trust this person. So your guard is down, which means that you don't think that this person could ever do something bad to you. You know how many times I was told, oh, but you said something different. And I literally myself, I was like, well, maybe I was so busy, I must have forgotten. You know how quick that is? It's so quick. And it's the deepest manipulation. It's insane.
And if you wonder about gaslighting, that comes, I believe it actually comes from a film, from a description where, or at least a story, where essentially a woman is slowly driven by her husband to really be half insane because he changes a little bit of furniture. And she says, it's weird. Have you done something with the furniture? No, I haven't. And she leaves the room. He changes. It was times of gas lights where you basically have a little screw to get more fuel into the gas, and it's brighter. So he changed the brightness of the room. And she says, oh, that's bright, or it's dark in here. No, it isn't. And that's the gaslighting. That's where this comes from. He is basically manipulating your environment in such a way that he makes you doubt yourself. And it can really literally drive a person insane.
Oh, absolutely.
And of course, the thing is, your guard is down. That's the other thing that's so important. You're in a relationship where you have been put on this pedestal, where you are, oh God, he loves me. Look, he showers me. The love bombing. I actually had not heard that description, but it describes it so beautiful, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Oh, and let's get quite clear here. That is not necessarily only refined to relationships, to private relationships. That happens at work just as much. If you have a narcissistic leader, then he will do exactly the same. He will build you up, and for 3 months, you're the best thing since sliced bread. Oh, yes, I feel good. And then afterwards, come exactly the same thing, exactly the same pain and confusion. And what the hell? And unfortunately, yes, it is. I have seen that in my own workplace, and it's not very nice. It is a very brutal thing to watch, and to see the other person crumbling and literally disappearing in self-doubt and worthlessness, and those kind of emotions is very, very, very hard to observe.
Yeah, absolutely. And also parents. You can have narcissistic parents.
True, very, very true. And there's a whole other story. And of course, because the child or the partner or whoever is on the receiving end of a narcissist is constantly doubting, etc., it becomes actually a whole new focus in their life. And often a narcissist tries to, the other thing that we haven't said is tries to sort of protect you from the environment, so to speak. They will make sure that you're not going out, that you're not talking with your friends about it, that you're not going out there. He wants to control. He wants to control you. I mean, I say he, forgive me, she, it. Okay, that's right. I use just the typical kind of, what is typical out there, please. If it walks around with stripes, it's probably a zebra. Okay, so yes, he will control it as much as you possibly can, because that allows him to manipulate you the way you are. If you step outside of that control bubble, he freaks out. Because there's suddenly the fear that he is no longer in control. There's no longer, he can no longer manipulate you. And then you become a threat. And then he might actually be quite willing to be very, very toxic. And that is certainly happening then in a relationship, maybe not as much, but it can happen, of course. But no, in a business relationship, if you suddenly stand back and actually look this bully deep in the eyes and say, actually, no, actually, sorry, the way you treat me is not right. And then suddenly, oh, no. We are here to help you. Obviously, your performance is not as good. Obviously, no. It's all you. Again, gaslighting happening. Again, turning the whole thing around. But you have just put me in, boss, you've put me into this leadership position. You built me up for the last 3 months, 6 months. And quite good what you said. It can be a longer period of time. You've nurtured me. You've been there for me. And now, but it's clearly your performance has failed. And you think, what the fuck? I've worked 16 hours and I've done absolutely everything. 3 weeks ago, you praised me for what I've achieved. And now my performance is lacking. What the hell? Can you see that? Can you see, guys? It is these kind of things. It is crazy.
It is absolutely. And you know what, especially in the workplace, what I see happening a lot of time is people that are persuaded, should I say, gaslighted into staying in the same position under the same boss for years without progressing, without a pay rise, without masking it as being loyal. But in reality, there is a very huge intention behind, in the boss's mind with the narcissistic traits of keeping that person in that position because they are going to use them for something, or they are using them for something. And this, unfortunately, has been the reality in so many workplaces, in so many, in so many companies, not necessarily a company. I mean, I've seen I worked in events industry, it could be bars, restaurants, even doesn't necessarily, have to be an office or corporate environment. But it's literally when it comes to a narcissist, like you said, you use the word control. Yes. And I'm going to use another word, which is power. They want to hold that power, and obviously at your expense, at your expense. So you're not progressing in career. Your work isn't appreciated. Or maybe they give you just enough so that you don't move. Or maybe the time that you complain and say, well, actually, I'm thinking of moving. Oh, here's a pay rise for a moment. Right? How many times has that happened? Nice. And in reality, it should be, well, this is a person with skills. Let them pursue what they feel like they want to pursue in their life. This is it. This is the deep manipulation. And the huge problem is that it is so accepted in society, so ingrained that we don't even freaking notice it. It's so there,
I did not actually realize that until you now spelled it out, but it is regrettably a behavior that's actually quite common. If you think about personality disorders, I often say it's about 1 in 10 people that you meet have got a personality disorder, and there's a whole range of them out there, different groups. So the narcissist would be less, maybe a percent, maybe 2%, something like that, maybe 0.1%. I doubt that. So let's call it 1%. So that's 1 in 100 people. And if you now say, actually cast the net wider and say, what about traits, not just a full-blown narcissistic disorder, then you have got so much more. So basically, it is, I mean, if there are so many people out there, how the hell can you possibly survive in an environment where there are constantly sharks swimming that want to have a nibble on you and want to have the power over you? I mean, what do you tell women who are coming to you? I mean, what?
So we work on empowerment. We work on self-love. We work on living authentically as who we are. Because when you make that connection, when you realize and you actually step into that power and put yourself first without being guilty for it, then you spot those things. Then you're able to see, no, hang on, this is not okay for me. I'm not tolerating this from anyone, you know? But the narcissist approaches you when they see an entrance, right? So if a narcissist tries a narcissistic behavior and you're straight away like, I'm not up for that. I don't want to hear it. Just don't have that behavior with me ever again, then they don't have an entrance, do they? So we work on that. And what we need for that is to understand our own power, is to understand that it is not selfish to actually look after yourself first. You know, it is not a bad thing. I mean, we've been taught, you know, how many times we've been taught that, oh, well, you know, it's the weekend, but perhaps you should have a look at your emails. And we're like, well, I'm waiting for the promotion. You know, maybe I should just do that. And this is in the work environment, but how many times perhaps, you know, we are just starting to date someone and they do something that is a little bit like, you know, a little bit of a red flag. And we just say, well, you know, I'm going to, maybe they didn't mean it. Maybe they didn't. So if you point it out to the person and say, look, okay, you didn't mean it, that's fine. But just so you know, this isn't acceptable. The reaction that person is going to have is going to tell you a lot about the person. Because if they try to convince you that they are right, then here you go. But if they say, oh my God, I'm so sorry. You know, you're absolutely right. I didn't think about it. I apologize. And that's not going to happen again. And it never actually happens again. Then that's a different story. You're dealing with somebody who is healthy and who actually cares. But so it's about, but if we don't step into our own power, if we don't love ourselves first, then we're not able to even say stop. Because why? Because we want to be loved so much. We want to be cared for so much. So we don't have that strength of saying, no, hang on. No, we're just hoping for the relationship to happen, right?
Very well spotted there, very well said. And it is hard. It is hard because things are fluctuating. Things move in all of us. And there are times when, I mean, right now, the two of us, we seem to have our shit together. And that's a lovely, lovely place to be in. And I love it, love it. But there will be times in my life when just wave after wave of chaos is washing over me. And I might turn into, well, there are a few people living in me. And one of them is a pure survivor. And I'm a little bit scared of him because he goes over corpses. He drinks out of the skulls of his enemies, that kind of attitude. The guy is, I know the guy, he's in me. And when he comes out, then really shit has hit the fan around me, but he helps me survive. but he is not a nice guy. He is a guy that makes sure that I will survive, which means that I come first, regardless who is around me and whether we are talking relationships, etc. So what I'm trying to say is that I think most of us have that kind of survivor in them. And maybe most of us are not as in tune with us ourselves. So they don't know that they're changing personality, that they're being pushed in from normal into stress, into distress, and then their behavior changes. And that might be then taking on a narcissistic kind of flair. So normal people in distress, regrettably, can start become manipulative, etc. So I loved it how you said it, that there are traits, because that if you think of it like us going through waves of normal stress, distress, and back down, you can see where sometimes maybe something in us comes out that is not so nice. What you have, however, said is, if you then call that out in a relationship and say, look, honey, that's really not okay what you just said. Are you all right? Tell me, are you actually, what's going on? And the person suddenly breaks down in tears or whatsoever. Now, that's a very different thing. I want to point out the response that you get. Mm-hmm. If there is a complete denial, a complete, that might be that this person is truly in denial of them being in distress. So there could be that. Or you could have actually come to a point where you actually recognize the real person, the real guy in there, that is now unmasked due to him being in a stress or distress position. And suddenly you see the real him. And that can be very powerful insight for you. Mm-hmm. But it's not a nice insight. That's not something you want to see. That is when the doctor says, look, we have found some cancer in you. That's about the same impact as that has. You don't want to hear it, but maybe you need to hear it in order to survive.
Mm-hmm. I'm so glad that you mentioned that person inside of you. Would you mind if I asked you one or two questions? I just want to give some examples. Is that okay?
Oh, hell yes.
So I love that you said that, because it is true. Everybody can have that bad behavior, that not so healthy behavior, right? From what you're saying and from what you've been talking and the work that you're doing and everything, I am prone to think that you are somebody who's worked on themselves.
100%. Okay. And even more so every day, every single day. So right now, guys, if you were wondering, I'm going through an hour of therapy here. So that's how I look at things.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So I think that you are able, what is coming through for me when you said that, when you brought out that part of yourself, what is coming through is that you have accepted that part of you. Right? That you recognize that sometimes this person comes out, he lives in there, and something might happen and this person might come out, but you also recognize he's not that nice. He doesn't, I accept that side of me, but I do take responsibility for whatever he does. And I know that he's not that nice. Right? And that's okay. That's healthy. Right? I want to point out that this is healthy. Everybody can have their person inside that does the not so nice things, right? It can happen. We all go through a hard time. The difference here is this: a narcissist thinks that that's right. A narcissist thinks that is the right behavior, right? So for them, there is not that person. Oh, there's a different person inside of me. No, they don't see it. There is nothing for them there is no different side of them that needs working on and that needs accepting. It is not within how they work. It is not within their process to do that. So when the manipulative, let's say, version comes out in the narcissist, they're like, oh, this is convenient. I can use that. Right? Bastards. Now we're laughing, we're joking, but do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And you spelled it out really nicely, that and there's, again, a lack of empathy. It's a lack of understanding. For them, the only thing that matters is really themselves. Mm-hmm. And they will go over corpses in order to get what they want. That is their outcome. And in some cases, they can be very fixated on that, and will invest a tremendous amount of time to actually get what they need. And if that means tremendous amount of time being essentially cruel to you and gaslighting you and being just putting doubt in your own mind, then yeah. And it is amazing when one stands outside of such relationships and observes what is going on. The amount of interactions that happen, the amount of energy that flows into that is just mind-blowing, actually. And in a working environment, it is so toxic. There's no two ways around that. Mm. So, and there is no quick fix. But I love your focus on giving back the power to the so-called victim, to accept that you're actually not a victim, that mm-hmm. you are. That's right. So step out of this victim role. This victim means basically cowering down in most cases and taking it. No, it is. I mean, and to a certain degree, in such cases, there is a degree of codependency. Codependency means basically you are feeding the needs of the narcissist. The narcissist, to a certain degree, is feeding your needs. So there's certain personality disorders which really get attracted to that. So it becomes really, you two are just like two walls being against each other. The moment that one of these walls actually starts to develop power themselves and actually says, the so-called victim says, well, actually, fuck you. No, yes, I hear what you're saying, but no, I actually go out now with my girlfriend and I need to have a chat with her. So you're standing up. The narcissist is in trouble now. Either he changes his behavior or he goes. So, and that's where the crux comes. And it is such a toxic thing when you watch it. And then you see the cycle of love, rejection, and so on, and so on, and so on. Oh.
That phrase, that's what creates the dependency. Mm. That's what creates it. It's the fact that they are giving you, withdrawing, then giving you again. If they stopped, then you'll be like, okay, nothing else is coming. But because you've gone through the cycle enough times to know that after a little bit of withdrawal, you'll get some love again, then it's easier for you to stay than leave.
So true.
Because that has become your reality. And I mean, the brain, I love this. I am a huge Tony Robbins fan. And he always says, the brain isn't there to make you happy. The brain is there to make you survive. Okay. And for the brain, survival and safety are familiarity. So whatever is familiar, if what's familiar to you is a highly abusive environment, then for your brain, that would mean safety. Even for you, it isn't. Does that make sense? Because it's familiar, because it's what you know. But then you can have the awareness of saying, oh, hang on a minute. Yeah, this might be familiar for the brain, but this isn't healthy. What is happening here isn't good. I must get myself out of that situation. And I want them, whoever is watching now, I want you to know that if this is where you're at right now, I want you to know that you can get yourself out of that situation. 100%. It is something that you can overcome. You know, it's going to take some healing. It's going to take some working on yourself. It's going to take some time, but please, please, please whatever you can do to get yourself out of that situation and to put some distance between you and the person that is doing that to you, please do it. Please, whatever you can do. And when you ask for help, make sure that whoever you ask doesn't know the narcissist, because they will go to extreme lengths, turn it around and go to your friends and be like, oh no, but it's their fault. No. So make sure that the person that is helping you is just helping you, and it's external, and it's a person that you can trust because they are on your side, and that's it. Sorry, I went over.
No, absolutely correct. That's exactly right, Gloria. And who could this person be? I mean, if you are cash strapped, because often enough that manipulation in a relationship involves also the control over the finances and things like that. So if you're cash strapped, then maybe your GP, your family doctor. So you have developed now a cold, you have developed a women problem, and you need to see the GP. And then have a word with the GP and see our family doctor. GP is the English description of in New Zealand description, but wherever you are in the world, see the doctor who is normally looking at you, who maybe knows you, and have a word with that person and say, this is the relationship I feel I'm stuck in. Where do I go from here? That can be your first port of call. That can be your first ally to actually help you and protect you, and maybe hold the mirror in front of your face and show you that things are actually much worse than you have thought, and then you maybe allowed yourself to accept, and just maybe there is actually a real risk for you in life and health point of view. So maybe then the next step might be Women's Refuge, or it might be another support group that might be in your part of the world that takes similar important steps to help women get them out of a toxic relationship.
Yeah.
Luckily, that is hopefully not so common, but if you actually recognize that, and dear viewer, if you right now feel, actually, and suddenly get this doubt that potentially you could be at danger, at risk, please stop right now. Stop right now. You can listen to us later on and come back to our interview, but right now, stop listening, pick up that phone, make a call to your physician, to your GP, or if things are really suddenly daunting on you that this is not safe, then please call police and look after yourself first. And I think it is sometimes there are decisions you have to make, however hard they are. Please protect yourself. So it is not okay to be beaten, to be. It will not get better, is I guess what I'm trying to say. No, he or she will not just stop. Please look after yourself and seek help right now. But if you're not in such deep trouble yet, you have found, oh my God, what they are talking about, I can recognize that here in this relationship. And you think, oh my God, where do I want to go to? You could do far worse than actually getting in touch with Gloria. Gloria, tell us a bit more how people can get hold of you. How can they work with you? I believe you mainly attract women as clients. Do you work with men or transgender people as well?
I have worked. I have worked with men as well. Yeah, absolutely. So if you're a man and you're listening and you want to get in touch, please do that. I'm more than happy to help as well. So just before I get to the whole contact details and all that kind of stuff, I just want to point out something, just because I want to give people a little bit more of an idea of, and I'm so glad that you mentioned things are not going to change. The person isn't going to change, right? There's a mistake that a lot of us do when it comes to a narcissist, because they are illness, their disorder, their thing, it's not as evident as other possible personality disorders, then we are prone to think that then there isn't anything there, right? That it's like well, yeah, maybe he's not, So here's the thing. I'm sure pretty much everybody who is listening to this is familiar with a multiple personality disorder, what that entails, right? So if you came across someone with a multiple personality disorder, would you expect them to have a normal behavior? No, you wouldn't. Okay? Because you would know that they have a personality disorder. Okay. It is exactly the same thing with a narcissist. The mistake that we make is that we expect them to behave normally. And we are there thinking, but why does he do this? Why is it? Because they have a disorder. Because their way of thinking is completely different. The way of processing information, they lack of empathy. So why would we expect them to stop behaving the way that they do? We need to start looking at the whole thing for what it actually is. Does that make sense?
Very much so. And that's the hard decision to make for someone who has been stuck in such a relationship for such a long time. Because as you say, because of the cycles, that is typically not okay, he's changed his behavior to me. I see what is happening. I walk away. As if that was so easy. Or you're in a relationship at work and you don't just want to walk away. You've worked harder than you ever did. You spend 16-hour days left, right, and center in order to please that boss, to be there, to show that you can do it. Have a look here, what I did. And then you get a little praise and then, okay, maybe I didn't do so much. And in reality, yes, you did, but you've been, the downhill trend has started, all that shit. You can't just walk away. So what to do? I think that is where people like Gloria come in, because they can actually work with you and sit down with you and just listen to you and listen what you say and listen what you don't say, and then actually come up with the right questions, because that's what a life coach and a psychologist does. These are people who are trained to actually ask you the questions so that your brain comes up with the answer yourself and helps you. So there you go. And suddenly you think, and suddenly the lights go on. And that is a beautiful and horrible moment. Horrible because you actually see the person that you have had faith and trust in, that you did everything for. You see them for the monster that they are. And that is soul destroying. That is so hard. But it's also so beautiful, because that pushes you so far outside of your comfort zone that you simply have to take action. It is as if you take a bow and you really pull it back to the very end, and you're there. You can't go any further. That's where you are now. Yeah. And the question is, which action do you want to take? What will you do? Invest more time and hope that things get better? Regrettably, people do that. Or maybe rethink what is happening. Maybe accept that, no, actually, I am who I am, and I'm actually gorgeous, and I'm actually worth it, and I'm good. So no, I don't think it's me, and those emotions that I'm feeling are not okay in response to behavior from someone else. And so that is the journey of self-love and of developing your self-worth. And that is so beautiful. That is where the money comes in. Okay, that is where the power comes in. That is where you're going out there and starting to grow. And for that, I commend you. And for that, I congratulate you, because you're on the same freaking journey that Gloria and I are on. We are constantly changing. We are constantly improving. We are constantly trying to be better. And welcome to the show. Literally, welcome to the show.
Indeed, yes, yeah, absolutely. Thank you for saying that. And I love the way that you said it. It's once the light goes on, once the awareness comes, you cannot unsee. You cannot unknow what becomes known, right? So therefore, what do you do? Now that you know, what is it that you do? What do you want to do?
Exactly. Oh, that's beautiful. Beautiful. Gloria, where can people find you?
Yes. So I am on Instagram a lot. So you can definitely find me there at Gloria Battini. And then also on my website, gloriabattini.com.
That's beautiful.
And I have loads of, I have a lot of free content, obviously, on Instagram. I did a whole bunch of videos on the jargon of narcissistic abuse. So what each expression means. There's a beautiful video series on that. So if you want to get your head around it, because I know that when we start researching the subject at the beginning, it can get a bit confusing, a bit too much. So I did all those videos for you there. There are a couple of trainings on how to get over a narcissist for good. This is all that free stuff that it's on Instagram. There's some free stuff on my website as well. You can go and have a look at that. But yeah, otherwise, please do get in touch if you have any questions. My contact details are on my website and also on Instagram. Send me a direct message. I'm always open to have a conversation.
Beautiful. Oh, beautiful. Gloria, thank you so much for being out there for people and helping them to see the real light, not a gaslight, to actually just and be the torch, the candle of light in the darkness of someone else. Because that's our power. That's our destiny. And I guess that's why we do that. That's why you spend the evening talking to me, and for me, the early morning before I even get to work. We're talking about such problems here because they are out there, and they keep raising their ugly head, left, right, and center. And the only way that we can make this world better is by recognizing the darkness, recognizing the evil, recognizing the way that some humans behave, and draw a line somewhere in the sand where we say, no, actually, these are my boundaries. Your rights stop on the tip of my nose. So right now, you have become a bully. You have become a problem, and I will seek help, and I will protect myself. And once you come into that position, that's a position of power. There is no more victim there. Sorry, that victim is behind you. Nice to meet you, but the victim is gone. So now let me introduce the new me. And that is a beautiful person that you as a viewer, you probably might just actually be at the cusp of developing that new you. So welcome to the show. Honestly, welcome to this new life, and go out there and leave a legacy. And that legacy is not going through cycles of pain and destruction and then hope, and only to get pain and destruction again. So no.
Oh my God, yeah. I'm so glad you said that, because the last thing I want to say, and then I'll let you all guys go, but the last thing I want to say is that it is fundamental that you know that this work goes beyond you, okay? Whatever it is that happens to you, you are influencing not only your kids, if you have, but you're influencing your friends. You're influencing all the people that you come into contact with. And the moment you decide to break that cycle and to stop and to work on yourself and to become the person that you are meant to be, to step into your power, that's going to be the legacy that you leave. That's going to be what people are going to take from you in this world. So it's not going to be a knock-on effect of the narcissistic cycle. It's going to be a knock-on effect of self-empowerment, self-love, healing, feeling better. And you get to a point where you're you are in an absolute state of overflow, that you have so much joy, happiness, love within yourself, that's when you're able to give. And that's when it makes a huge fucking difference in the world.
So true. Gloria, so you said it perfectly.
Thank you.
Perfectly.
Sorry, I'm going to zip it.
No, you don't. It's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous interview. And I love it for exactly what it is. This honesty and this passion and that passion comes from the work that we have done. So it is that self-improvement process, the willingness to shine the torchlight into our soul, figure out how we work. These are our actions. Where do they come from? Well, they come from emotions. Okay, cool. So let's get to know these critters. What are the emotions? And then you sort of have to think, well, where do these emotions come from? And that's from your core beliefs, and that's from really who you identify yourself with, etc. There's so much going on that level. And that is the work that most of my guests and me are doing, to actually dive down there and figure out why the hell are we responding the way we are, and how do other people manipulate that or affect it in a positive way, etc. So if you can figure out how can we actually make this world a bit better, the very first question is, how can we make us better? And how can you work on yourself and protect yourself and look after yourself? And that's what this show is about. That's where my website, Steps to Sobriety, my book, Steps to Sobriety, the other work I'm doing is all about that. And that's what Gloria is all about, that. So for Gloria, check down there into the description of the YouTube show and of the podcast. Whilst you're down there, subscribe. Hey, and tell your friends, because exactly, it's so important, because let's beat these algorithms. Let's actually make this show go out there. I've had some wonderful guests, and we won't stop anytime soon. There will be hundreds more guests coming onto my show, and these are all beautiful people like Gloria who can make such a difference to the world, to you out there. So guys, just help me come onto the mission of changing this world. One little habit, one little step, one little movement at a time. Gloria, you're gorgeous. Thank you so much for coming onto my show.
Thank you for what you do as well with the show. So thank you so much.
No trouble. And you guys out there, I believe in you. Stay strong, and let's make this world a little bit better. Bye.